Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. On the first episode of Smackdown after the conclusion of the draft, we were told it was a season premiere, and we were told we were going to start the King of the Ring and the Queen's Crown tournaments on this show. And despite those three really big, really clickbait worthy, get your attention, please watch our show things that they announced, this show was heavily uneventful and somewhat meaningless and quite disrespectful. And we are going to talk about all of that and so much more right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare. You are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's Smackdown Review and Reaction Show. Let's do it.
Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
I feel like this episode of Smackdown was written by a Meeseeks. Like Mr. McMahon had a Meeseeks box and he, boom, hey, look at me, we got King of the Ring, look at me, we got the Queen's Crown, hey, look at me, it's the season premiere, look at me, look at me, look at me. No. That's not how it works. You could announce all these things. If you still put on a piss-poor show, it's going to come off like a piss-poor show, and that is the thing that the WWE does best. They raise your expectations to some level and then just shit all over you. This episode of SmackDown was the drizzling shits. Now, I know we had two really good King of the Ring tournament matches, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the effort put forth by Sami Zayn and Rey Mysterio as they went out and they had their first match of the tournament, and they had a banger of a match. Yeah, I know we've seen Sami Zayn and Rey Mysterio a couple of times in the last month, and I want to hit the trigger on a rematch alert, but all of those matches were meaningless. This was a King of the Ring qualifier, so it mattered. This was a match between these two guys that mattered. They wrestled the match as if it was important, as if both men actually wanted to win, and it came off that way, and it was a great opening match. It was a great way to start the King of the Ring. We had a great second match for the King of the Ring. We had Finn Balor taking on Cesaro. That was a hell of a matchup. Either way, no matter who wins and who loses, there's a strong contender that could actually win the King of the Ring that is going to be eliminated right off the bat with this first match. And Balor and Cesaro, much like Mysterio and Zayn earlier in the night, they went out there and they did not pull off. They pulled off all the stops, right? Is that how it say? They pulled out all the stops. They did all the little bells and whistles. They gave us a great match. You're talking about Cesaro, one of WWE's best and most underrated wrestlers. Finn Balor, same exact thing can be said. We had a great match. It felt important. It felt like these guys wanted to win the King of the Ring. I am preferential to the King of the Ring happening all in one night. I like when tournaments happen in one night. And it's the real journey of the one guy that wins the tournament going from match after match after match. It just seems more meaningful. It means more because the guy had no time really to rest. He wrestled 4 matches, 5 matches, whatever the case may be in one night, and then the tournament winner is crowned, and it feels earned. These qualifiers on this night and then round 2 on this night, I mean, it's different, and it's how they do it now, and I don't really care for it, but I love the King of the Ring, and I'm glad it's back. I'm glad it's not on Baron Corbin's head anymore. But let's not get too excited, because look at that. Baron Corbin was the last King of the Ring before Shinsuke Nakamura's ridiculous and somewhat meaningless run as the king. And I was so happy when they brought it back, and then they gave it to Corbin, and then it just became a running gag. It became a joke, and it didn't get any better when Corbin lost the crown to Shinsuke, because then they just turned Shinsuke Nakamura, the King of Strong Style, into a joke. He was a comedy act. He was filler. They teamed him with Rick Boogs, and now he's just a way for the crowd to sing and have a good time, and for Pat McAfee to get all up and be all fucking stupid on the dance table and you know, whatever. So what does being the King of the Ring even mean anymore? What is it going to do to one of these talents? Michael Cole, excuse me, kept wanting to repeat how the King of the Ring has made so many superstars in the past. This could be life-changing for the winner. It also could be detrimental to their future in professional wrestling because it's really meaningless. King of the Ring has become as meaningless as having a season premiere. What is that even in pro wrestling, a season premiere? You don't have a season. Wrestling doesn't have an off season. There's not a month where the talent goes away and they have to come up with next year's season. No. Wrestling is ongoing, week after week after week. It's not like sports. There is no off season. What are we premiering? What does it mean to be a season premiere on a professional wrestling show that's on TV? It means nothing. It means nothing because your season never stops. If there were a season premiere episode or a season finale episode, it would have to happen in March or April in and around WrestleMania. That's the wrestling calendar. The year begins and ends with WrestleMania. The entire storyline throughout the year should culminate and arc towards the next year's WrestleMania. That's your seasons. They barely even do that properly anymore. But if you wanted to be truthful and be honest and have a real season premiere, it would be the Raw and SmackDowns following WrestleMania, respectively. Because as far as the television seasons, it doesn't matter. Season premiere of SmackDown. It's a hook. It's something to make you think you're going to see something special. Something that's not your average episode of SmackDown, because this is the season premiere. And all they had loaded up for your season premiere was bringing back the King of the Ring and the Queen's Crown. The debut of the Queen's Crown tournament, which is just the Queen of the Ring. I feel like they just didn't call it that because they couldn't get the rights. Maybe there's another promotion out there using Queen of the Ring since WWE slept on it for so long that now they have to call it the Queen's Crown Tournament. And I hate it. It just sounds stupid. We got the King of the Ring, and then it should just be the Queen of the Ring. Why? King of the Ring and the Queen's Crown. It just doesn't sound right. Doesn't feel right. And I'm not going to get too worked up about it because if you want to talk about unnecessary, you want to talk about meaningless, you want to talk about something that the WWE doesn't give a shit about, then we have to bring up women's wrestling. I love women's wrestling. You love women's wrestling. You know who doesn't love women's wrestling? Vince motherfucking McMahon. Because he pulls this Queen's Crown shit out of his ass out of nowhere. We've been asking for a Queen of the Ring for years. Right? We know they have the capability to pull off great tournaments. We've seen the Cruiserweight Classics. We've seen the Mae Young Classics, the Dusty Rhodes Classics. We know they can do this. But they've chosen not to. They don't even want to put on another Evolution pay-per-view because they just don't think people give a shit about women's wrestling. And they proved it with the way that they booked the Queen's Crown tournament. 2 matches were featured in this tournament tonight. And both matches together didn't even add up to a total of 4 minutes of screen time. Or at least as far as the wrestling is concerned. Do you realize that the first match for the Queen's Crown tournament went about 2.5 minutes tops? The second one barely went 2 minutes at all. Don't worry about who the competitors were, because that's not what it's about. I don't give a shit who won. I don't care who lost, because that's a whole nother topic to discuss and bring the hammer down on. But the bottom line is, if you're going to go in and do this, do it right. You're having the first ever. You want to keep saying it's the first ever, it's the historic, it's going to be great, it's going to be fantastic. And then we get 2-minute squash matches, and the competitors are questionable at best, but how many women do the WWE have at their disposal? How many of them are viable contenders or challengers or possible winners for a Queen of the Ring? You don't want it to be one of the four horsewomen. Becky's doing her thing. Charlotte's already way over-touted. Sasha Banks doesn't need to be the queen of the ring. Bayley, maybe you could do it with when she comes back because she's heel. Like, maybe that could work. But none of that is necessary, and Bayley isn't coming back anytime soon. So who else is there? Shayna Baszler's an obvious choice. She's my favorite to win this thing. She's the queen of spades. She should be the queen of the ring. Other than that, who is there? Who is there? And when you look at the girls they put in this thing to begin with, they're not taking this seriously. And their booking proves it. Just in the match times alone. You want to talk about winners and losers? Zelina Vega took on Toni Storm in the first match for the Queen's Crown in the first round. Most people probably thought this was going to go very easily to Toni Storm, and in fact, it went the other way around. Zelina Vega was victorious tonight, and I know it triggered a lot of people. Honestly, I don't care. What has Toni Storm done since coming to SmackDown that would make you think she should even be in this tournament? Nobody barely even knows her name. The new fans that are tuning in, they're not tuning in to see Toni Storm yet. And that's the WWE's fault. Because they called her up and did nothing with her. Probably because she was one of Triple H's favorite little projects. So now they want to shit all over her because she was his. That's speculation. That's just my opinion. But when you look at this and you see that Zelina Vega beat Toni Storm, and not only did she beat Toni Storm, she did so in just over 2 minutes. What does that mean for Toni Storm going forward? Here you have this girl. Look at what the average fan is going to tune in and see. Here's this girl. She likes 80s. That's the whole thing. They can't stop talking about it. She's an 80s throwback. She loves hair metal. She's from the 80s. She's got shit on her face. She's cool. She's from NXT. She's cool. And it was all for nothing. Because she shows up, and instead of building her up so that people could get behind her in a Queen of the Ring, Queen's Crown tournament, she's done nothing. And now she loses in 2 minutes to a mid-carder in Zelina Vega, who hasn't won a match since she came back. Nobody looks good here except maybe Zelina Vega a little bit. And the whole point of this tournament should be to make new stars. It doesn't have to always be with just the person who wins. There should be matches in this tournament that show the star power and the capabilities of the women on this roster and what they could do, and give them 6 to 10 minutes to put on a nice little matchup. But instead, because the WWE don't really give a shit, this is what we're getting. 2-minute squashes of women who that are questionable at best to even be in this thing in the first place. You know, everybody's all pissed off about Toni Storm. Personally, Zelina Vega should have won. She's only, Toni Storm's only been there for a hiccup on the main roster. She's done nothing. Zelina Vega's been there for years. She may not be the best wrestler according to some fans. I don't see that. She was trained by the Amazing Red. She's one of my favorite girls on the roster. She always was. Longtime fans know that I've always been a huge proponent of Zelina Vega. There's no problem with Zelina Vega winning this match outside of the perception of the character due to the way the WWE has booked her into the fucking ground. She's been in a never-ending thing with Carmella that now I guess is over, maybe? Oh no, because we're going to get to see them wrestle again. That's their mentality. They're not going to do anything different. They don't want to make a splash. They're just throwing it out there to get people to watch. Oh, they're making the Queen's Crown? Oh, they're having a Queen of the Ring kind of thing? All right, I'll tune in, I'll watch. And then you hook these people, and then you give them this dog shit, and then you wonder why nobody's going to be around next Friday. Or the ratings are going to drop. Or you're not generating the interest and the clicks that you want for the right reasons. Instead, everybody's tearing this shit apart because you showed your hand. You showed your cards to everybody on the table. Yeah, we got this ace up our sleeve, the Queen's Crown, but we're going to show it all to you before we even use it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We don't care. We don't care. Lure us in with the promise of something good and then deliver in the way only WWE knows how, which is by shoveling big heaping piles of dog shit on top of anything that we may find interesting. The saving grace of this show was the match quality of the King of the Ring matches. But as I was saying before, the King of the Ring is not a star-making vehicle anymore. It's become a sideshow. That's what Boogs and Nakamura was, a laugh-act sideshow. That's what Baron Corbin was, King Corbin, sideshow. Are they going to turn it around? Are they going to book the new King of the Ring serious? I don't think so. In fact, after tonight, when Finn Balor put away Cesaro in the second match, I am almost 100% convinced that the only reason they're having this King of the Ring is so that Finn Balor can win it, so that Vince can start to call him the Demon King again. Because he must have really liked that. And now he's going to make it make sense. Because it didn't make sense before. He was just the demon. And then he came up and all of a sudden he was a demon king with some kind of Scottish or, whatever his heritage is. Scottish or Irish, whichever one he comes from. And they had this whole ridiculous story of some monster. And it just was forced and ridiculous. And now they're going to have Finn Balor win the King of the Ring. Because he's the prince. And what happens when the prince moves forward in life? He becomes a king. And he's not just going to be a king, he's going to be a demon king. That's what I think's going to happen there. Anyway, for the most part, that's my rant. And now let's talk about Smackdown, the show, which started off with a contract signing. When I was at Smackdown in the Garden just a couple of weeks ago, there was a contract signing there too. Only there, they actually signed the contracts and made it interesting. This was your typical contract segment. You had Bianca Belair out there. You had Sasha Banks. And you had Becky. And you had them all saying these things that normal human people don't speak the way that they script these promos on SmackDown and Raw. And it makes you shake your head, and it's not even worth repeating. It was very weird. It started off with Becky at the table. There was a table on the stage. Bianca was in the ring, and Sasha was on the announce tables. It was weird. It was just happening because let's do a contract signing. Mandatory checklist for any WWE angle. And it's not very often we see a triple threat contract signing. And the inevitable happens. It breaks down into fisticuffs. And there was a cool spot here. This thing wrapped up when Bianca Belair would hoist up Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks on her shoulders and deliver a KOD, putting them both through the table, but nobody signed any contract. It was a cool spot. But they booked it, to make you think he's just watched something great. Watch this awesome move because, nothing else really mattered that we just did here. Nobody even signed the contracts. Was this match official? I don't know. Are we going to redo the contract signing next week? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Sami Zayn defeated Rey Mysterio to move on in the first round of the King of the Ring tournament. Great match. Also telling the story of the dissolving of the father-son relationship between Rey and Dominic as Sami Zayn took the turnbuckle pad off one of the corners and Dominic decided he was going to help his dear old Tiny Dad and he went up there to tie it back on and then Tiny Dad was like, no, get the fuck down. And then he ended up getting pushed into Dominic and the most devastating move in all of pro wrestling, the roll-up for the win. for Sami Zayn as he moves on. We had a video package to promote the coming of Hit Row. We need to see more stuff like this. I didn't mind it so much. I'm very, very, I don't want to say excited. I'm looking forward to Hit Row showing up. I just want them to do right by the faction. I have no confidence at all in WWE creative to do the right thing. If you think I'm crazy for saying that, then all you have to do is check your history and look at Retribution, look at Sanity, look at all of the acts that have been pulled up from NXT, and you know that I'm right. But let's hope in this case that I'm wrong. We had an interview with Seth Rollins, who was wearing a suit that made me dizzy. I thought I was going to pass out every time Seth Rollins shows up. He says he's the bigger man, and he's challenging Edge to decide who's going to be the better man. They took a look back at what he did last week, all the shenanigans of breaking into Edge's house. Seth Rollins was then annoyed now that he was talking to Kayla Braxton after talking to her for like a full 5 minutes. He's like, wait, why am I even talking to you? You don't have any power. I want to go talk to someone with power instead. And they showed us the Queen's Crown tournament brackets, which was Zelina Vega versus Toni Storm. There was Carmella versus Liv Morgan. These were the two matches we would have tonight. And on Raw, we have to look forward to Doudrop versus Natty and Dana Brooke versus Shayna Baszler. This is your field for the Queen of the Ring. Dana Brooke, Natty, Doudrop, Carmella. Come on, man. Toni Storm, I'll give you. Liv Morgan, I wouldn't mind have even seen win this thing. Natalya, maybe, because she's the longest tenured woman on the roster. Maybe give her the first Queen of the Ring. She could be the Queen of Hearts. She could do all of the shit. Fine, I would have been fine with that. But Doudrop, Dana Brooke, Carmella? What makes them worthy of a Queen of the Ring? Dana Brooke hasn't even been on fucking TV. Till last week when they buried her. It's so stupid. Zelina Vega defeated Toni Storm in about 2 minutes. We talked about that already. Roman Reigns came out. And that's where the big sin really is, right? Because Roman Reigns comes out. His fucking entrance took longer than the 2 combined total times of the women's matches. Took Roman like a good 4 or 5 minutes to get to the ring. Breathing slowly, walking slowly, the Usos pointing to the ones in the air, and then we went to commercial, and then we came back, and he's still coming in. But you didn't have another minute or two for these women to squeeze in somewhere? This was good. Roman and Paul and that whole storyline with them and Brock, it's good. It's creating some necessary tension and drama. It's obvious to me that Roman wants Paul Heyman to declare his loyalty, and he kind of did so tonight, although he never really said what Roman Reigns wanted him to say. Paul Heyman cut a fiery promo on Brock Lesnar to prove his loyalty to the tribal chief. He was almost in tears at times. You know, Roman told Paul, I love you. You know, the Usos love you. Everybody loves you. But, you know, you gotta tell me what's going on. You gotta be honest with me. You gotta let me know if you were behind the whole free agent Brock Lesnar thing. And Heyman ducked that question. He never gave an answer to that question. But it was interesting. And Paul E. with the mic is always worth your time. We had the other Queen's Crown tournament match, Carmella defeating Liv Morgan in about a minute and a half. This whole thing revolved around her ridiculous, stupid mask, and I could care less. Before this match even got started, Carmella locked the Code of Silence in, and then Liv, I thought, was going to survive because she grabbed the mask, and then next thing you know, it was over. It was weird. It was quick, and I didn't care. And I also thought it was weird that so many people that were leaving SmackDown were wrestling on SmackDown because, you know, the roster, you know, split. The new draft doesn't take effect until like 3 weeks from now. So we're in this fucking WWE limbo where everybody's everywhere or just where Vince needs them to be. And it doesn't matter anymore. Nothing matters. That should be the tagline. WWE Smackdown. Nothing matters. Happy Talk. We got another Happy Talk segment. We're not even going to talk about it. King of the Ring tournament match number 2. Finn Balor, Cesaro. Fantastic match. Really good. Balor defeats Cesaro with the coup de Gracie. And I was not surprised that he won, but I was surprised that Cesaro was put in a position where he wouldn't be able to advance. See, like Finn versus Cesaro, you would think that would be a semifinal match, or even the finals for the King of the Ring. But no, we gotta have a match for Xavier Woods, and Jinder Mahal, and Kofi Kingston. I mean, Xavier, I know he's been pushing to be King of the Ring, and I don't mind. I'm on board. I've actually, on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, you see that I support Austin Creed to be the King of the Ring one day. It obviously means a lot to him. He'll probably take it seriously and try to do it justice, which is why I don't mind. And with the WWE mentality, do you really think they're going to put like the King of the Ring on a guy like a Cesaro, or a guy that's entertaining and over with the crowd like an Xavier Woods? Because as we've already mentioned, the King of the Ring is now a comedy act. It's a sideshow. It's supposed to be entertaining and entertainment stuff with it. So they'll probably give it to Xavier Woods when all is said and done anyway. Naomi confronted Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce in the back. She still wants her match, and now she's going to get one because Sonya Deville says next week on SmackDown, she's going to welcome Naomi back to the ring by taking her on in Naomi's first match. And all I need to happen here is for Naomi to beat Sonya Deville. That's it. Move along, because this segment is mightily uncomfortable. It doesn't make any sense. They're not trying to make any sense of it. It's coming off as racist, and it's very insensitive, and it makes Sonya Deville look terrible, and I don't like it. Because I like Sonya Deville, and I love Naomi, and this is a waste. It's a waste of time. It's a hot-button topic as it is. If you're trying to be edgy and more controversial, this is not the way to do it. So Sonya Deville needs to show up next week and either get disqualified for cheating or some shit, or just flat out lose and end this before it gets out of hand. Because it's going to. This is WWE. You know it's going to. Sonya Deville also decided that Becky Lynch is going to take on Sasha Banks next week, apparently. She made Becky Lynch sign the contract in the back just to prove that she's better than Sasha and Bianca, because they, I guess, failed to sign the contract yet. I don't know. The whole show was just a big mess of segments and nonsense. And it ended with a segment. Well, it should have ended with a King of the Ring final, but it ended with a segment. It ended with Seth Rollins coming out and doing his Seth Rollins thing. He doesn't want to be Edge Light anymore. He wants Edge to come out and answer his challenge. He remembered that he ended Edge in Madison Square Garden with the curb stomp, and Edge has been silent because he's admitting that Seth Rollins is better than him. And then he brings up the family, of course. Next thing you know, Edge is coming out. He hits the ring. Rollins leaves. The fans are going berserk. And Edge challenges Seth Rollins to Hell in a Cell at Crown Jewel. Now this came out of left field. You know, it's not like the WWE to not have a Hell in a Cell match when it's not Hell in a Cell time. And if you remember when we were talking about the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, I said to you, Hell in a Cell should not be a pay-per-view. This is common knowledge. Every fucking podcaster in the world that has a brain worth 2 cents knows that. And that Hell in a Cell is a match type that should be brought out to settle feuds that have elevated to an almost nuclear level. And that might be being generous. I wouldn't say Edge versus Rollins is nuclear at this point, but Seth Rollins did break into the man's house. He touched some of his personal belongings. He made comments about his family. He almost took him out with the curb stomp, tried to end his career. They've had a couple of matches already. This story has been ongoing since WrestleMania. So now it would absolutely, totally, completely make sense for a Hell in a Cell match. And I'm not going to piss on it. I'm not going to shit on it. I'm not going to do anything to it, but say fine. Fine, because this is how Hell in a Cell is supposed to be used. I'm not going to be mad when they do it in the right way. They did it the right way. I'd much rather this be the way they go from now on and erase the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view altogether from the calendar. Let the feuds and the storytelling dictate when a Hell in a Cell is needed, not just because it's September and we have to do Hell in a Cell. No. That's what makes it less special. And I am mightily skeptical to see Seth Rollins inside a Hell in a Cell again after what he did last time he was in Hell in a Cell to The Fiend. But also, knowing now what I did not know then, after I watched the Stone Cold podcast, seeing how Seth Rollins was pretty much on our side, and he did not want to do what Vince McMahon made him do because he knew it was wrong for the business. I feel like he's going to want to redeem himself, and he's got a great dance partner to do it with. So expect Seth Rollins and Edge to be probably the best match on the card at that fucking pay-per-view. They're really stacking it up. They're really trying to make it something worth watching. The problem is that I'll be working when it's live, so I'm going to have to come home and watch it on my own time, which is kind of better because I can skip through anything that I don't want to have to see. And then we'll come here and we'll talk about it, as always. So SmackDown ended with a challenge for a Hell in a Cell match. Edge, Rollins, that I dig. But the blatant disrespect to the Queen's Crown tournament and the women's division is out there for the world to see. The meaninglessness of the King of the Ring nowadays, everybody knows about it. The season premiere of SmackDown means nothing. Those are just two words put together to make you think it's going to be special. And had it not been for the two very, very, very good wrestling matches on this show, I don't think I would have even made it. This show gets like 2 hammers out of a possible 5 because it's still terrible. It's still terrible. And as I told you guys last week, even when this roster goes into effect, the new rosters, nothing's going to change because the people that are writing the stories that are supposed to be entertaining us on the show are focused in deep on Roman, Brock, and Paul E. and not giving a flying fuck about anybody else. That is all we have to say about last night's episode of SmackDown. Thank you guys all for your continued love and support of this channel. Now's your time to do your part. Make sure you hit that like button if you had a good time here with me today. Share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, and make sure they are subscribed just like you should be. And if you're not, hit that subscribe button for me right now and hit the notification bell so that you will always know when the hammer comes down on the WWE right here on YouTube. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the Team Thor, the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, his tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue, the Yeti microphone, the most important member of the team, as always, each and every one of you. If you missed anything on the channel, it is up in the annotations up above, and we will see you Monday for Monday Night Raw. That, my friends, is going to do it. We are out of here, and we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com.